It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, Bill Boggs. Hi, Bill. How are you?
Well, I'm always, anytime I can be talking to anybody in Vegas, I'm happy. I want to say hi to my friends in Las Vegas. I'm thinking about the top of my mind, Clint Holmes and his wife, Kelly. Great performers, live out there. Anyway, thank you very much for having me on the show, Doug.
Oh, you're most welcome. I was intrigued by your bio, and we're going to be talking about your book today. This is follow-up book called Spike Unleashed. The first book was called The Adventures of Spike the Wonder Dog?
Yeah, The Adventures of Spike the Wonder Dog is the first book. This is R-rated material. It's in the category of like raunchy satire, similar to the current Jennifer Lawrence movie, No Hard Feelings. That's the genre that I'm in. It's narrated, the story is told by Spike, the Wonder Dog, and Spike is a voice like E.T. outside of the human universe, commenting on things, and he's becomes a television star with his master, Bud. We never know Bud's last name, and Bud's a TV talk show host like I've been in my life, and they both go from the small market where they have a TV show up to New York, get a show up there. So it's following his adventures set in the world of show business and far beyond. The new book, Spike Unleashed, was just out now. It's actually, the full title is Spike Unleashed, The Wonder Dog Returns. That's a second in what's going to be a trilogy of books that we're going to develop into an adult cartoon. I don't mean X-rated, but I mean like an adult cartoon. That's the goal with the material. My goal as a writer is to make you laugh. And this is designed. The dog Spike has been called by two critics the funniest dog ever to appear in fiction. So something's working with Spike.
Oh, well, that's great. Is Spike your alter ego at all? I mean, is any of the material that's in the book things that you have experienced over your life? Oh,
absolutely. Doug, if you're writing a novel, set in the world of radio, music, interviewing people, and so forth, so much of what's in your life would come out. This is Spike Unleashed is actually the third novel that I've written. The first one was written way back in the 80s, and that was, once again, about a talk show host who falls in love with a woman who lives in another country, and that was very much modeled on what was happening in my life. So everything in the book that happens in the world of television is inspired by something I've either observed or something that's happened to me, something I've experienced. And then the unique thing, I say this to a lot of people who've not written fiction, the unique thing is the characters that you create, like at this one, the male and female characters and other dogs in the book are all coming out of me and my imagination. It's just an absolutely magical thing when you sit down and write fiction, and and if you can get it published, like I have, and you get good reviews and so forth. I don't know if you've seen any of the blurbs that we've gotten from people like Brian Cox of Success and Bob Costas, the creator of The Simpsons, Mike Reese, Alan Zweibel, a whole bunch of comedians, big fans of the book. So yes, the answer to that question, I could have just said yes, but between an interview, I gave you a longer answer.
Oh, that's all right. I like longer answers. It makes my job a lot easier. I've had people on the show that have answered questions yes, no.
Yeah, I call that the Elliot Gould syndrome. Elliot Gould, when he would come around to promote a movie, was notably famous for really giving you a hard time with short answers like that.
Well, it's like pulling teeth. I mean, you go through, if you have any notes at all, you go through the talking points in about 4 minutes, and then, then what do you do?
And then, kind of cue up the music.
Well, let me ask you a little bit about your career, because I'm looking at your bio. It looks like you've you've been in the entertainment business for many, many years. Did you start out as a stand-up?
No.
I'm
going, in case somebody just tuned in, I'm going to use my name. I normally don't start out in the third person. No, Bill Boggs began his career launching a comedy team that went on to write for Mary Tyler Moore, Bob Newhart, The Muppets, Alf, Create Alf, and so forth. I began my career essentially managing and producing a comedy team who were co-workers of mine in a corporate job that we all hated, and we were able to get out of the corporate and into show business by their talent as writers, and I did some writing with them, and my talent as the ability to sell them as their manager and produce stage shows and stuff with them. So I began my career in show business in the world of comedy.
And then you also did talk shows. You were on the Food Network?
Yep, I had 3 shows on the Food Network. The most notable was The Greatest Scam, Doug. The greatest scam I've ever pulled off in my career. That show was called Bill Boggs' Corner Table. And I came up with this idea. I was co-producer of the show. The premise of the show was I'll sit down with big-name celebrities in their favorite restaurants, eat lunch for free, and be on television and travel all over the country doing it. And they actually paid me to have lunch with Sophia Loren. That was one of my most notable shows. But on that Bill Boggs Corner Table on the Food Network, some of the guests were like, let's see, we shot a show in Vegas with the Smothers Brothers. We shot a show in Las Vegas with the late David Cassidy. We shot a show in Las Vegas with Tommy Tune. We were out in San Francisco with Cheech Marin, in New York with Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, and a lot of, and I mentioned Sophia Loren. We had Bill Cosby, had Matt Lauer, had a lot of different guests. Whoopi Goldberg on the Bill Boggs Corner Table on the Food Network, and a lot of my work where I've been able to save the tapes. Some of the pure talk shows were done live, but a lot of my work has survived, and it's like me, and it's on a YouTube channel that I created about a decade ago, more actually, and it's called BillBoggsTV. You've got interviews there with Jerry Lewis, whom I first met in Las Vegas, a little bit of my long interview with Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Natalie Wood, Sean Connery, Rodney Dangerfield, Richard Pryor, all manner of people are on Bill Boggs TV on YouTube. It's free. If you're interested in seeing some of these historical interviews, like Yul Brynner or Roy Cohen debating Gore Vidal, a lot of stuff is on there. Just go to Bill Boggs TV. It's free, and subscribe.
All right. Well, I'm definitely going to check it out. I like that premise about just going to lunch with a celebrity. That could be real interesting.
Yeah. It was actually, if I look at my career, Doug, the only thing I've ever invented in my career, and this puts me in the legion of television, like somewhere way under a talking horse, Mr. Ed, is I invented the concept of interviewing people and eating on television. I did it on Midday Live, which is a show on the East Coast, syndicated off the East Coast. We had a round table once a week where we bring in people, usually all of the same thing. Like we could have local weathermen, or we could have lady politicians, or whatever. And we'd have a big lunch and talk. And I found that at a table with food and wine in front of them, guests frequently were more relaxed than just in a typical format of a couch and a talk, like a talk show. And then when I was on WNBC in New York, I did something which I called Bill Boggs Corner Table. And then when I transition to the Food Network. I was on the Food Network the first night it went on the air. I was part of the original group of people who helped who launched the Food Network. Unlike Robin Leach, I did not put money into it. By the way, there was a great guy who lived out the end of his life in Las Vegas, Robin Leach. But I really believe if you only go back to 1994, the Food Network was launched in 1994. I was part of the original team, as I just said. People were incredulous, and I mean that in the full extent of what that word means, incredulous, that there could be a Food Network. What? What are you doing now, Bill? You left WNBC to go to the Food Network? Are you nuts? But I really believe in the concept of food as a metaphor, as entertainment. And look at how every country in the world now has a Food Network. Every major country with a television network has some form of the Food Network or food programming on it.
Was Martha Stewart part of that original gang?
No. Martha was not. She would have excelled. I mean, Martha was so far ahead in terms of her status as a mogul and a businesswoman that she did not get involved in the Food Network. Had Martha Stewart been one of the original investors in the Food Network, I would venture to say that she'd be even more successful than she is today, and she is phenomenally successful now. That's not a criticism of Martha Stewart. A lot of people could have invested in the Food Network who didn't. It was basically a small group of people from Rhode Island who came up with the idea, and Robin Leach put some money in. He was one of the originals in there, and he was Robin Leach with Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
Yeah.
He saw the same thing he saw the same thing I saw. People are going to love it, and it just started out as like food demos. We had Sarah Moulton and Emerald and Bobby Flay, and all they were doing was like cooking and talking, and they wanted something that was like the next step in programming, and that's why I said, well, look, I believe I can get celebrities to have lunch with me or dinner. How? Well, how? I said, look, since I got into television, I've been booking guests. I have a lot of contacts. So they said, well, give it a try. And you know who I know that he is a verboten character right now and will be that way for the rest of his life. But the person who helped me was Bill Cosby, a native Philadelphian. We're going back to 1994. I ran into him and told him, he said, that's a great idea. How can I help you? Literally. And he said, I said, what's your favorite restaurant? He told me. I said, okay, can you meet me there? He said, yeah, this Saturday. I got one camera, went down, shot it, and Cosby, at the time a huge star with a clean record, was my pilot. Now, let's move on. The second show was Matt Lauer. I knew him very well. We worked together at a couple stations. He had just taken over the Today Show, so he said, "Sure, Bill." And so like my first two guests was like, if you're not invited, if you're not indicted, you're not invited. But then Whoopi Goldberg came through, and those three people helped me to launch my show.
All right. Anthony Bourdain, was he on that?
He passed through the Food Network.
He passed through, okay.
Anthony Bourdain. By the way,
yeah.
in the book, Spike Unleashed, one of the characters is the ghost of Anthony Bourdain.
Oh.
I'm not going to tell you anything else. The ghost of Anthony Bourdain comes into Spike Unleashed.
Well, we don't want to give it all away, but I do want to pivot back to the book because I see
whatever you want, Doug. It's good talking. I'm enjoying my. But who doesn't like talking about themselves, right?
Well,
I'm
of
having
course.
a good time here. Thank you.
We want people to buy the book, so we don't want to give too much up, but we'll give them a little bit of a teaser.
Okay.
And I see a couple of celebrity names on here that I want to touch on.
Okay.
You've got let's do two. Let's do Kim Kardashian and then Prince Harry. So what's in it about them?
Okay. Well, I like to start my books with a big scene. So Spike and Bud in Spike Unleashed, the book, they are based in High Point, North Carolina, which is a medium-sized town, and they work at WGHP-TV. That's where I had my show, where I actually had a dog who was Spike the Wonder Dog. So there is a germinating essence there. So the book starts, and High Point, North Carolina is the furniture capital of America. There's a huge furniture market every there. It's very big right now. Thomasville, North Carolina, a lot of furniture is made out there, and that's the next little town over. So the book starts with Spike and Bud and their boss, Lombardo, on a big crowded reviewing stand with a lot of dignitaries, and there's thousands of people are lining the streets of High Point for a Kardashian Day parade. One of the Kardashians, Spike is not sure which one of the Kardashians and potentially a baby Kardashian are coming to town to launch a line of wide-bottom chairs that are going to be sold at the furniture market. The conceit here is, I'm going to try to give you the conceit. So there's thousands of people lining Main Street in High Point, North Carolina, and and they're all waiting to they want to try to get a selfie with the Kardashian to promote themselves, these sleazy politicians and everything. But the main thing is, one of them says over the loudspeaker, "This is an even greater day in the history of High Point than when General Eisenhower marched this same route with the 1st Airborne after World War II." Now, that is a send-up of the value system in our culture, that anyone would think that a Kardashian parade was more important than Eisenhower at the end of war. But that's satire. It's taking something with a seed of, has a seed of truth in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A seed of truth. And then one of the anchormen, one of the young anchormen at the rival TV station, turns to Bud and says, "Who's this Eisenhower character?" That's another takedown. We're not studying history. The fact that if you mentioned General Eisenhower to somebody, everybody in the United States over the age of, say, 15 should know who that is. The Supreme Allied Commander, directed the invasion of Normandy, the largest armada ever assembled in the history of the sea, became a 2-time rather successful president in the 50s, built the interstate highway system, and left office saying, "Beware the military-industrial complex." That's basic American history there, and we have to teach American history.
Well, I'm afraid that you would have to go above 40 to get anybody who would remember who Eisenhower was.
That's probably true. But when I was in high school, I knew about World War I. I knew about the Civil War. I knew about Abraham Lincoln. I knew about General Grant and Robert E. Lee. I knew about that stuff when I was 15 or 16. Why can't a student today know about World War II?
Well, I think they're teaching different things. It's
my value system.
It's all changed. Let's get back on topic because we're kind of running down on time here. Okay, so Prince Harry.
So that's the satire, but that's the satire of it.
Okay.
Meaning, Kardashian is more important than Eisenhower. No, I just went off on it. Go ahead.
Right, I like it. All right, let's do Prince Harry. Then we got to wrap it up.
Okay. Well, Spike ends up saving a couple of strippers when there's a fire at this Big Woody's strip club, which is the home of the infamous Dance of the Seven Oils. The oils catch on fire, and Spike bashes in the back door with his brick-like head, saves the strippers. There's video of it, and he ends up coming to New York and being on all the shows. He's on Saturday Night Live. Kate McKinnon tells Buzz, I'm in a movie now called Florida Man, and it's a story about this heavily tattooed guy who's a typical Florida man who kidnaps a dog to use the dog as bait to capture the Everglades' largest alligator. But the dog who's cast in the movie, a Dalmatian, bit Tim Allen, one of the stars of the movie. And why doesn't Spike audition? So Spike auditions and gets a part in the movie Florida Man, Doug. And the person playing the heavily tattooed Florida Man is Prince Harry, whose Netflix contract. Right, you got it, right? Now we're heading forward. And this is a satire. His Netflix contract includes a clause where once a year he has to make a movie with take a part against type. So he's got 72 tattoos all over his body, but the main reason he took the part was it's being shot in Palm Beach, and his wife wanted to go there so she could shop.
Okay. It's good.
I hear it chuckle. Thank you, Doug.
Yeah, I appreciate this kind of satire. Are you getting any blowback from the woke cancel culture on any of this?
I haven't so far. It's politically incorrect humor. Look, I saw this movie with Jennifer Lawrence. I mentioned it before. No Hard Feelings. The movie's great. There's so much stuff in there that you would try to cancel this and that. It's got raunchiness and everything in it. So far that really hasn't happened. My book is not political. There's something in there making fun of Donald Trump. There's something in there making big fun of Joe Biden. So I don't have a political axe to grind. I'm just doing satire. I'm just doing comedy. But here's the point. Comedy is always going to offend someone, Doug. Always. But the very nature of comedy is transgression, conflict. You know what I mean? Any comedian will tell you that, from relatively gentle comedians, observational comedians like Jerry Seinfeld will tell you that, Mark Schiff will tell you that, Tom Cotter. But I've been an officer in the Friars Club for many years, and we have many comedians that they can get on stage, say, with 100 people in a comedy club. One person, like 3/4 of the way back, can take offense at something, and then he can end up getting vilified the next day by 80,000 people on social media. So I'm trying to push back. I think any culture, any society that can't laugh at itself is in big trouble. The more sense of humor we have about each other, the better off we all are. But it has to go both ways.
Well, I agree with you, but unfortunately right now it doesn't seem to be going both ways.
No, it isn't. But I'm not on the vanguard, but I'm in a group of people creating humor that's satirizing society and saying, let's just laugh at ourselves. And look, and if you don't like it, you don't like it. But that doesn't mean that you have to mobilize an army of other people not to like it. That's the problem. That's the entire problem right there. And then there's one other thing attached to it, and I address this in the book in a little bit of a way. Nobody forgives anybody anymore. Like, somebody could have told a joke 2 years ago, and they could have been called out, vilified, canceled, and that's it for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Nobody ever says, you know what? That was terrible. That was 2 years ago. We forgive you. But what's happened to the very word forgiveness.
Well, it's
an important word, isn't it?
It sure is. And just because you don't like something doesn't mean that you have the right to delete it so that no one else can see it. I mean, that's just the very definition of fascism. Well,
that's a very good point too. But on both sides, on the left and the right, you have a form of canceling. But humor should be one of the last things we want to cancel. As Lisa Gold, who plays out there in Vegas every once in a while, said, when they come to the comedians, we're in big trouble. And I'll stand by that. She's absolutely, not Lisa, Judy Gold. When they come to the comedians, we're in big trouble.
Bill, we got to wind this down. We are out of time. Thanks so much for coming on. My guest is Bill Boggs.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
My guest is Bill Boggs, and the book is called Spike Unleashed. Is the book out? You said it's just coming out?
Yes. You can order it right now on Amazon, and you'll have it next week.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And your website? Give out your website.
Two things. You can follow me on Instagram at RealBillBoggs, and then my website is BillBoggs.com. And if you want the book, if you just go to orderspike.com, it takes you right to the Amazon page, orderspike.com.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for coming on, and best of luck with the book. I hope it does well. It sounds very funny. I may get it.
Oh, thanks, Doug. I mean, this was a pleasure. A nice way to spend a little bit of time. I enjoyed talking to you. And if you ever need a guest, give me a call. I'm around. And I love Las Vegas. We even get into my stories of Las Vegas. Let's do that sometime together. We'll have some fun. Okay?
All right. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. All right, Bill. Take care.
Bye-bye.